France 24's Armin Georgian joins me on the set to talk a bit more about the situation in Myanmar. Armin, first of all, let's talk about the timing of this coup. Why is it happening now?
Well, the broader context, Jeannie, is that the military saw that they were losing power. The party that's aligned with the military, the USDP, did very badly in the elections in November, in the parliamentary elections there. And this is despite the fact that the military have for years tried to keep hold of their influence during Myanmar's democratic transition. So they made sure that they had a certain number of seats in parliament reserved for pro-military political forces. They made sure that they held on to key ministries as well in the government. Despite all this, their popularity was clearly very much on the wane. Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy did well in the 2015 elections, did even better in the 2020 elections, so just a couple of months ago, and the military saw that essentially power was finally slipping through their fingers. The immediate context is that this week Parliament would have effectively endorsed the results of that November election and accepted the new government, and this is something that the military moved against before it could actually happen.
Armin, what about the international community in all of this? We've already heard from a few heads of state criticizing the coup verbally. Could there be a more aggressive response to the situation there?
Well, there's already differences between regional responses and responses in the West. So if you take, for example, ASEAN, the regional group, it's been pretty tepid in its response so far. China, which has become increasingly close to the Myanmar military in the context of the Rohingya crisis, the Chinese are also being very, very non-committal, just saying all sides should handle their differences. So essentially, we're not going to get involved. More robust responses from Washington and Brussels and other Western capitals, a call for those who've been detained to be immediately released, Jeannie. But one wonders whether this will be simply words or whether any actions will follow. No doubt Western capitals will be watching for the next few hours to see what happens, but there's not much incentive for the military in Myanmar to suddenly release the people that it has detained simply on the basis that there are calls in the West for them to do so. After all, remember, Jeannie, that there are already sanctions from the EU and the US on individual members of the military in Myanmar in the context of the crackdown on the Rohingya and those who are assumed to have been responsible for human rights abuses. They're already under some Western sanctions. That hasn't affected or altered the behavior of the military as a whole.
Armin, thank you for that. France 24's Armin Georgian.